Hi, Rochelle here for week 8 QQTP. I'm at work trying to get this done and posted so that my teammates can have plenty of time to respond. So if I get interrupted by a 6-year-old, I apologize. It's also why I'm going to just read what I have. I try to do it authentically, but today to be concise, I'm going to read it. So excuse the lack of eye contact. My question is, we have all experienced social interactions where we have taken offense to what can be perceived as passive-aggressive, unintentionally offensive, and or upsetting. How do you feel in these situations, and what effect would it have on you if you heard them every day targeting who you inherently are? My quote, and I chose this quote because of a specific word choice, and I feel like it highlights the importance of language in everyday life and just in concepts in academia as well. My quote is, further picking out what counts as microaggressions by what assaults self-esteem would include a great many slights unrelated to any shared aspect of identity, as well as targeting dominant aspects of identity. Conversely, it would exclude many experiences currently labeled microaggressions, such as othering microaggressions that point to a supposedly distinctive, but not in itself disvalued feature of a group. That was from the Emily McTernan paper. And it was the word othering that got me, because in relation to that quote, othering, they used it in kind of a positive way, but there's also othering in a negative way. And that word othering helped me to analyze and think about this in a different way. So I'll explain that. That's talking point number 1. In the article, the word othering was used when discussing microaggressions. This word has led me to analyze this concept in a way that I might not have without it. This is affirming at the very concept of microaggression and the role language plays in it. When I previously studied microaggressions in my teacher prep program, I struggled with the concept because it felt subjective and at the mercy of someone else's perception based on their own unique worldview, which isn't necessarily bad. It just made it hard for me to check myself because I can be kind of like I can overthink things, and so that without clear definitions and boundaries, that kind of can sometimes make me tailspin. Historically, I've approached this concept by balancing and integrating what I see, know, hope, and imagine for our world and work backwards from there. That was until I heard the word othering. That word choice gave the concept personal meaning and application to me. One of my sons has a medical condition that has put him into a persistent feeling of otherness nearly his entire life. And the effects of this have been life-altering for our family. Now I know what this looks like. Now that I know what this looks like, I can begin to understand what life looks like for those that experience this daily. I know what it feels like. I know the kind of emotional toll it has on a person, and I know what it feels like to operate within a system that perpetuates the behavior while being in an environment that you have no choice but to participate in. The particular system that I'm speaking about is the education system for my son. My son and his feeling of otherness have taken quite a significant emotional toll on him and has changed who he once was. And it all started out from the microaggressions of peers. And when left unchecked, they escalate into a power differential that has negative consequences and that has changed the way that he looks at himself and the world. And I don't know if we're ever going to be able to change that. And that's like the sad, and that's a sad thing about it. And my son's not unique. I see microaggressions happening daily in public school. Teachers look the other way at what I will nicely label as acts or words of covert unkindness for several reasons. The most common reason I see is resulting from teachers being exhausted and overworked. Time and energy is a precious commodity, and it takes effort for teachers to address these incidents. Unless it's overt, energy will be conserved. Or perhaps teachers get desensitized to it because they see it every day, all day. Or maybe they question their own perception of of a situation. Like, did I really see or hear what I saw? So because this is so pervasive, it becomes status quo. And I feel children may have become conditioned to dismiss and discount the power of words. Because it's not addressed by adults in positions of power, this gives implicit permission for it to continue. And students begin to see and operate daily in an education system where harmful social interactions are ignored or dismissed because it isn't outwardly cruel. I'm not saying this is intentional on the teacher's part, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be in order for harm, in order for it to cause harm and perpetuate a social problem. I'm being very specific in my example here, in my reflection, because once it happens, I mean, it's happening everywhere. I'm focusing on the education system because that's what I know and that's what I see. And I feel like many things start with children, and including this. I can see how it starts in the education system, and then it just kind of progresses from there. My second talking point, I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I can understand and relate to the ambiguity that leads to difficulty in addressing and preventing microaggressions. I see the relationship between microaggression and intersectionality. While reading one of the articles on intersectionality, I annotated in the margin, microaggression, ? It was in regards to a portion of the paper in which they talk about the politics inciting scholarly papers. It led me to both wonder and realize, is this what makes microaggressions difficult for some people to grasp? Like, I was questioning whether it was or whether it wasn't, and I'll go into that in a minute, but loosely defined boundaries and definitions. Oh, the example given in the article is not suggested that it was done so intentionally. However, it did serve to have a significant impact through lack of cultural sensitivity and significance of citing prior studies upon the work of those before them. The unintentional and lack of understanding seemed to me to be a hallmark of microaggression. But where it conflicted, where it made me unsure, is that the impact of the actions in the academic setting seemed to be bigger. It wasn't like just some weird, passive, like little thing. It felt to me like the impact, not only did it reinforce the relevancy of intersectionality, but the implication of citing or not, has a big impact on scholars and people's reputation. So this brings up a question I continue to circle back to. Where does the line get drawn between microaggressions and outright discrimination that causes harm to groups of people, not just individuals? And if one harms enough individuals, then is it harming the community as a whole? I often like to use the thought that small positive changes can add up to something big. And this is true for negative changes as well. The ambiguity is something that I continue to grapple with and explore. Why do I need distinct boundaries with this concept? Why do I need these hard and fast rules to help me measure, engage? And I think it's all comes back to like my reflective nature, and that I don't want to do that. And if I don't have a clear sense of boundaries, how do I prevent myself from participating in this problem? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I'm going to continue to lean into this and as I process the information. And as Crenshaw asserts, I just kind of fall back on this. We watched a lot of videos and she said, without acknowledging of a problem, we cannot make any improvements. So this is me acknowledging there's a problem and I'm trying to make an improvement. Thank you.